Привет на всички. Hello everybody. Usually I put a slide greeting people in their native language. Usually I don't know it at all, but today, so it happens that I'm a master of Bulgarian. Usually I also have slides explaining my name, but I think today this is kind of redundant. My friends, especially those from Veliko Trnovo, from the high school, typically call me Bug. But you can also call me Bozo because, you know, Bozo is not a bozo. More boring slides that you probably don't need. An important slide. Usually I look better. Today, however, I had to wake up at 6:30 a.m. because yesterday I was at the Strasbourg Christmas market with a dear friend of mine. Before this, I taught my goddaughter some important life lessons because she's turning 10 this week and she's ready. She was way too ready, and this is why today I have a slight hangover, because she's 10, but I'm 40. And Gennady is a dear friend of mine as well. This is why I inflicted myself the pain of coming from France today. You know, we have been discussing doing something at Ruby Banica for a very long time, and I think I never came.
That's what she said.
But anyways, this year, because I'm older and maybe wiser, I'm here. Whether I'm wiser or not is debatable because I did watch the second part of Rebel Moon. Not twice. And I did reread finally after 20 fucking years of suffering The Wheel of Time. This was a big mistake. I knew I would regret it, but there is something deeply broken in me. Anyways, I told you I have some drinking issues. Gennady told me not to discuss drinking issues on the conference. It's fine. And here is a snapshot of my interests in life. This is my Instagram. You see that I like watches. I like O's. I'm not sure who this guy is.
I know him. It's Tolkien, man. It's Tolkien.
I have no fucking idea who he is. Yeah, but you know, this is the thing about being in programming in your 40s. At 20, you care about being a better programmer. You care about the craft, about design patterns, idioms, best practices. At 30, you realize this is kind of pointless. Maybe you decide that you want to try to be a manager and bring more impact through your divine leadership style. At 40, you realize that the only important thing in life are mechanical watches. True story. I'm really obsessed, like I watch Apocalypse Now, and all I'm thinking is, damn, Captain Weward has a really good example of Captain Weward. This is the Seiko 6105, a legendary dive watch, the second dive watch to be produced by Seiko. And the filmmakers really loved watches because you can see that Colonel Kurtz, Marlon Brando, wears a Rolex, which is the arch nemesis of Seiko. This is the GMT Master 2, I think, so a very evil watch. And why am I saying this? Because Ruby originates in Japan. Seiko also originates in Japan. And by trying a lot of watches, I have scientifically concluded that I am 20% more productive when I'm wearing a Seiko, like this one. It makes me a better presenter as well. I have also concluded that wearing a Casio makes me 30% more productive, but I didn't have any Casios with me today, so this is not going to be my best talk. I can tell you more about watches, about what they present for your fun level, social status, but the only person in the Ruby community that appreciates my jokes about watches is sadly not here. So I'll switch to more boring and more educational topics. So yeah, Gennady alluded that I'm supposedly known for working on some open source projects. RuboCop is alive and well. I know I'm supposed to say something about it. This year, the big news is that we support Prism, which is nice. And RuboCop is faster than ever, in case it wasn't fast enough for you already. So I'd say great success. Another interesting milestone is that RuboCop turned 12 years in April, quite earlier this year. And next year will be, I guess, pretty critical for the future. A cursed birthday. So yeah, lots of things to celebrate. Also, before this talk, I checked that this is the total number of downloads. So if somebody wants to nudge us over the edge, impossible is nothing. This slide I forgot to update, so I'll conveniently skip it. But yeah, it has been a wild ride during those past 12 years. RuboCop made it in the list of all-time 100 gems in terms of downloads. And if you look around it, you see that most of the gems around it are just RuboCop's dependencies like progress bar, AST, rainbow. So we propelled a lot of gems into fame. Yeah. But there is an actual talk today. And I think the topic is kind of interesting. I want us to talk a little bit about some weird aspects of Ruby. In case you didn't notice, I'm a weird person, so I like weird stuff. That's why most of my presentations in the past 10 years have started with dictionary definitions, because why not? So if you consult one dictionary, I forgot which one, about the word weird, you see that it can be described as something of strange or extraordinary character, something of or relating to or caused by witchcraft or the supernatural. This sounds very appropriate when we're talking about programming. Another dictionary definition, very strange and unusual, unexpected and or not natural. So good stuff here. And if we try to find something about Ruby itself, I guess the best way to describe it would be this blurb from rubylang.org, a dynamic open source programming language with a focus on simplicity and productivity. It has an elegant syntax that is natural to read and easy to write. I have to tell you, I am impressed that I can even speak in English in my present state. But you probably can't tell this. So the important thing before we dive into this talk is that weird is not the same as bad. I have a bad Ruby talk as well, and it is brutal. This is a positive talk. Weird is good. Weird is also subjective. And if you ask different people about what aspects of Ruby do they find to be weird, you're going to find always different answers, I guess. I was kind of lazy, and I thought, let's ask the world's foremost expert on Ruby, what are the 10 most weird features? So I used this prompt. And I got the following answers. Number 1, monkey patching, weird stuff. Number 2, open classes. Number 3, symbols. Here, I was like, okay, that's weird. Not the symbols. Blocks, procs, and lambdas. Number 5, method missing. Number 6, metaprogramming. Number 7, so this was very funny because ChatGPT called this flexible syntax. It's like, okay, whatever rocks your boat. Number 8, implicit returns. Okay. This was also a bit hard to parse at first, self-context changes. But basically, this is the fact that self is different in different parts of the code. And final, number 10, keyword arguments with default values. I was like, okay. So I used to be worried about ChatGPT, but I think we are going to have jobs for at least 2-3 years more, which is a good thing. And that's all I have for you today. Let's go to the restaurant. There are 105 slides more. And that, unfortunately, is not a joke, my friends. So, Ruby is in its managerial age, 31. Good age. Good age. You can still drink reasonably well. And you are not afraid to go to a conference after party. So, I'm a big fan of Batman, and I have learned a lot about life for various Batman movies and comic books. Most importantly, I learned from The Dark Knight, which I watched 7 times in 1 week, that whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you weirder. And if you're 31, clearly you survived a little bit in the world, and you must have become quite weird. So I do think that a lot of the weirdness in Ruby is just a function of its age. 31 years for a programming language is like 300 years for a human. So it's a pretty good age. So how is this talk going to proceed? There are going to be different things that I think are weird, and I'm going to be showcasing them to you. I'm going to classify those using 3 levels of weirdness. Number 1, everybody knows what. And I will be marking this with the following emoji. Nothing surprising. The second level, which is more weirder, is going to be, okay, we're not going to pause this and we are going to fix it. Fuck this shit. Or as we say in Bulgaria, eba osi mamata. And level 3 in English, let's say it's holy shit. And in Bulgarian, it's going to be zaebi. And because I wanted to incorporate Madonna in this presentation, you know, I have this weird friend from Sardinia who always gets shocked by some weird stuff and says, Madonna. You know, I thought this is appropriate thing to do. And I don't know, maybe a little bit less explicit. So, we are going to start with a little bit of calibration. I'm going to discuss a few well-known examples of weird functionality in Ruby. And we are going to rank it together before we dive into the weirder stuff. So, what do I mean by those usual things? Like, people often say that it's kind of weird that in Ruby you can alter the natural flow of control, meaning that with end and begin blocks, you can basically execute this bit of code before the puts and this bit of code after everything else. So we are not executing it sequentially. Whether you should be using this is highly debatable, but it is here for illustrative purposes. So how weird do you think this is?
Maybe on what level? Other languages have it. They stole it.
Yeah. I think this was copied from Perl, so definitely not groundbreaking. This is the infamous flip-flop operator that everybody knows about, nobody has used, except whoever wrote this snippet that I have seen in 10 different books on Ruby. Maybe it's good also for those programming competitions to write obfuscated code. I forgot the name, very popular in Japan.
Queens or like code chat.
They had some terminology.
The Queens the programs that Queens themselves, those things.
You remember this? We were at this competition when there were.
Maybe,
Yeah, maybe I forgot it. But this is.
It's a bit more than one because I don't think people use this. I think you're the only one with RuboCop that needs to deal with this shit. Otherwise, nobody.
I think it's a what just because everybody knows it.
I don't think everybody does.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think this is maybe a bit more interesting. You know, I hope you know, or if you don't know it, it's good for you, that there is a different way to write comments in Ruby, so-called begin-end comments. But there is a weird thing about them. If you don't place them at the very beginning of a line, they don't work. This is a syntax error. Which, yeah, I think fuck this shit, right? And this actually works, but I would personally think it's broken. So, yeah, I also find it very weird that we still have in Ruby. They used to be meaningful in the earlier days of Ruby, up to Ruby 1.8, but now they're essentially an alternative way to write a single character string. Not very weird, but somewhat weird. Of course, you can also use them for slightly weirder shit. Yeah. I learned a lot of weird shit working on RuboCop. I have a tag, weird Ruby, in the issues, and every time I need to update this presentation, I just scroll through the last 10, 20 issues. Good stuff. Anyways, let's continue calibrating ourselves. Reassignable constants. I think that the name alone is a strong indication that something is very weird here. But I hope you're all aware and you all agree with this. We continue. Class variables, I think they're very well known. Not super weird. No, that's a what. And we kind of fixed them in Ruby 3. This is the point of this slide. So you are going to start getting an error that you wouldn't be getting in the past if you decide to do something that looks dangerous. So I'm trying to say that they're not as problematic as before. So maybe at some point people are going to start using them more. I had completely missed this change in Ruby, and I learned about it when I got a ticket. Should we unban class variables because it seems they're not as dangerous as in the past? So, you know, we keep learning new stuff every day. Okay, so small calibration exercise completed. Let's start getting more weird. I'm going to be showing you examples, and you are going to be telling me how weird they are. So what does this bit of code return as the result?
Oh, this has to be false, right?
You tell me.
I'm voting for false.
Any other opinions? True, false, okay. Anything else? Okay, so yeah, so this can be only true because those are the rules of precedence. Yes, yes. It's not needed. But yeah, master programmer, this is not looking good for you.
No, I failed.
But this is the same thing. True or false? True or false?
I'm not voting anymore.
This is false.
Yes, this is false because the operators are the same, but somebody decided that the rules of precedence are different. Basically, the ampersand version and the bar, or however this is called in English, bind the end has a higher precedence than or, but with their English word versions, they have the same precedence and they bind from left to right, which results in some very confusing behaviors. So for me, this is a Madonna moment. We continue. How many of you know what this is? It's 3 letters technically. Okay, so
It's a television.
Madonna. Okay, so it's basically something that really looks like a hash and has your environment variables there. But if you check its class,
I know it.
what's
That's an object. You see, it's a monkey packaged object. Yes. Yes.
Why did you know that?
Yeah, I know. This one I
You
knew.
implemented it.
I redeemed myself.
okay? You redeemed yourself, my friend. Okay, so more quiz questions. I think this talk is working a lot better with.
These people. Really?
Yes. What do you see?
Ordinal 12. I know this. This is an octal number. You
Oh,
see,
yeah,
because
I
of
know.
zero, it's
Zero
like in
is
the
octal.
8.
Yeah, that's.
So what is it in decimal?
Oh fuck! It's 8 plus 7. Is it 15 or no? No.
He unredeemed himself. Yeah. When I first saw this, I felt like this bear.
Who was the guy? The guy who was sitting on the bear. Which guy?
I was the bear. I'm a very violent person. I used to play a lot of Warcraft 3, and I was pretty good. At the height of my career, I made it to top 50 on the European ladder, but I broke so many keyboards after this point. I realized I can never be a professional gamer, so I became a programmer instead.
Which common profession?
Yeah. But I was a very, very vile night elf. Okay, so there is an alternative syntax for this, which I think reads a lot better. And actually, it's kind of consistent with the alternative syntax, not alternative, but the standard syntax for binary and for hexadecimal. So, I found it weird that they decided to treat the octal digits, the octal numbers differently. And yeah, that's Ruby. We have weird stuff. So tell me,
Oh no.
will this bit of code compile or not?
Oh man.
Of course.
Yeah, otherwise it wouldn't be here.
Question, yes.
Will this bit of code compile?
Oh man. Oh no. No.
Do I see a yes?
I will vote
Yes.
yes.
Okay, let's do a show of hands. How many people think this is going to compile?
I will do it.
Okay, 5,
It's a nice
6.
question.
Okay, so it seems we are split evenly.
No.
No, it wouldn't. There is a special handling for if that doesn't extend to other keywords.
Wait a second. Why it won't compile? Like one returns a variable. It's
No.
not a variable.
It- You cannot start with numbers, yeah. So, Rado, from you I expected more than from Gennady.
I haven't drink any alcohol.
Okay, so is this a valid bit of code?
Yes, no.
Oh, it is. Oh man, this will be a valid one because of the unary plus. So this is plus unary plus. So those are two unary pluses.
So do you really trust this guy after all the mistakes he made?
This is my vote. I would say this is a valid Ruby.
Okay, and is this valid?
No, this is the tricky. I would say that this is valid Ruby as well, which probably isn't.
This is a crime against humanity.
It is actually valid,
Okay.
and it's valid for a very simple reason.
Oh, you see? A redemption.
So any such bit of code essentially evaluates to x, and this is where I mentioned that Twitter these days is named X and it's shit, and I'm on Blue Sky, which is blue and great. I'm also on Mastodon, but mostly on Blue Sky. I expect 20 new followers after the end of this brilliant talk. Make it happen.
You can create more than one account.
Get creative, get creative. Okay, we are going to the really good stuff, object-oriented negation. So a little known thing in Ruby is that the negation operator is actually a standard method, and you can write shit like this, and it will actually work. Not very shocking, right? But you can also override it, and you can calculate factorial in a really sexy way. But I definitely don't recommend doing this at home, because your code is not going to behave very well if you do it. So, other things that I find interesting, I guess everybody knows that numbers have a natural order to them, and you can generate a range of numbers. This is backed internally by the suck method, which doesn't suck, but it succeeds. It's a very successful method that doesn't suck. And it is used internally in ranges, as I mentioned. But you can also use suck for strings. And the results might be somewhat consistent or surprising, depending on the example. Or this one here, okay, maybe it's okay here, I'm not sure. And I know what programmers typically are thinking after they see this. This is the best way to generate a version range in Ruby. And they write code like this, and it works. But then they try it a little bit more, and the results are quite surprising. So, yeah. Don't do this. Don't do this. I also did some examples in Cyrillic, and the behavior was kind of weird. Here I was encouraged. Okay. Here I was like, I haven't seen this letter in Cyrillic yet. And I remember when I was doing this talk abroad, people were, you have typos in your slides, those letters don't exist. But they exist. They exist. Okay. More interesting things. So, does anybody know what this code does? Gennady is looking to embarrass himself even further.
It unfreezes a frozen string.
That's true. That is true. And this is how you might use this.
Yeah.
I never needed it in my entire career, which is 15 years in Ruby, but it exists.
Rails optimizations after this shit ended up in Ruby. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that we are going this way. Like seriously, like this is going into Ruby proper.
It's good that this is happening in my managerial years when I don't give a fuck.
Sure.
Uh,
I roll like this.
and by the way, there is a minus that is freezing strings, if I remember correctly. Yeah, but I will show you some better things, like an exercise in consistency. 0, okay, non-zero, nil.
Yeah.
False, 1.
You see?
Made in Japan, my ass. Some other fun examples about infinity. Just as consistent. Is one finite? Yes. Infinite?
I don't know, it's false. Yeah, sure. That's how we do it. Sure. Yeah. I get it.
It gets even better. I'm not sure how many people even know this, but when you use a here dog by default, it behaves like a double quoted string literal. So things like interpolation and whatever are going to work there. And we can illustrate this with an example. This is, of course, the opening of the Lord of the Rings and the inscription on the One Ring. I would have written this in the language of the orcs 20 years ago, but today, old, mature, wise. Well, this is the example, and the outcome is more or less what you'd expect. We have the interpolation in Mordor. Okay, nothing shocking. And you might be wondering, is there a way to suppress the interpolation? The way is slightly weird. You have to single quote only the top delimiter, okay? And the results are as you will expect them. But here it gets interesting. If you do this, you can actually have spaces in the delimiters, and you can actually have everything you want in the delimiters. This is valid code. And with here docs, there is something even less known. You can nest those. I learned about this from a RuboCop issue, as usual. So I struggled to understand in the beginning what this code was supposed to do. So I will illustrate it with an example. And I know. Value -5. But you can do this if you want. I'm not going to hold this against you, but in reality I will. Okay, so now the last 25 slides and some of my favorite weird aspects in Ruby. So how many ways are there to invoke a lambda? Show of hands for 1,
Oh, no.
for 2,
There more.
3, okay, 4, 5.
Even more. Like, yeah.
I mean, I think it was for like
I can enumerate some of them. I can enumerate some of them, yeah.
Okay, so this is our lambda. And let's see how many different ways we can call it. I guess this is the tried and true one.
Yeah.
This is the modern, sexy way.
First, yeah.
This is the old, sexy way,
Yeah.
like geek chic something.
Triple equals, is triple equals in there? Should be. Oh no.
Wait for it.
I forgot this one. Yeah. This one I knew.
This can be only.
Wait, there was some other method.
No, there is no.
There
So
was
it's
something
fine.
with an operator where it can do. Oh, I forgot. There was another weird one.
I don't make mistakes. I don't make mistakes.
Composition, maybe you're thinking of the composition.
Yeah, there was something I remember.
Yeah, so tell me, which method in Ruby's standard library has the most aliases? Guesses?
Size.
No.
Which method? Is it equals?
No.
Equals.
No. I think I will have to give you a hint. So this is the original method which somebody decided to alias as member, as key, and as has key. And there are a few honorable mentions that have just two aliases. qpop has also qdec and qshift. qpush has qenc and q. Give it to me. Select, filter, find all. I don't know. It's too much. And we are moving into the finishing line. So do you know that if you put something after the end thingy, which I wouldn't call, I think it was a compiler pragma or whatever, this is actually going to be bound to the data object. Yeah, I believe. And you're going to get this beautiful output. We can also create in Ruby. Like in physics, I remember how my professor in the Technical University of Sofia taught me that you cannot create energy out of nothing. You could only transform it. I showed this code to him and okay, I created an empty hash out of nothing. I created an empty array, an empty string, some numbers. This guy knows shit. And another fun thingy, you can do this in a slightly different and typically in the style of Ruby inconsistent way. Because as you can see, there is extended validation when you're converting to an integer or a float nil. But for arrays and hashes, this is cool. I don't know. I will conclude this talk quoting some Python wisdom. Explicit is better than implicit. Errors should never pass silently. In the face of ambiguity, refuse the temptation to guess. But this is Ruby. We don't give a fuck. We want to keep Ruby weird. It was a great pleasure to be here. Stay weird.